A very warm welcome. You're here with us on a new episode of Melt. I'm Ritvika Gupta, and on the show today we'll be in conversation with Toby Jenner. He's the global CEO at Wavemaker. Anant Rangaswami, editor of Melt, joins me today. Hi, Anant.
Hello.
Anant, so what was the conversation with Toby about today?
See, a year or so ago, Toby wrote about the sort of the argument for the role that media agencies would play in a complex world where you had the media agency, you had consultants, you had in-housing, you had programmatic, and I want to understand from Toby's point of view what role the media agency has to play in this complex world.
All right. And what do you think agencies are doing or should do to actually keep up with the ever-changing media industry?
I think Toby says it best. There are many compelling reasons why the media agency will always get the best talent. That is unarguable. Like you were saying, when you have a specialization, you want to work for the specialist.
Right.
For example, as a lawyer, you could join a corporate and be a legal counsel in-house.
Yeah.
Or you could join a legal firm. Now, when you join a legal department in-house, your conversations, your learning, all are restricted because it's only experiential to that company. While if you were in a legal firm, you would get exposed to 25 different things,
Right.
and 25 different aspects of the business. Similarly, somebody in a media agency will get exposed to the best learnings, to case studies, to training, to data from a million perspectives. While in-housing, he believes, would exist in some cases,
Yeah.
but you've got to balance, there's a brand building need, there's a performance need, and the media agency has got the talent, it's got the understanding of insights, it's got data, and it's got the experience and a network all put together. So that's the case that he makes.
All right. So let's have a look at the conversation. Let's get ready to melt with Toby Jenner.
Toby, welcome to India.
Thank you for having me.
So I'm going to start with a provocation based on something you wrote. So I want to ask you, why do media...
A year ago, apparently, I wrote
A year
this,
ago, yes.
Okay.
No, things don't change that fast. We wish they wouldn't, but why do you think media agencies still exist? What is the case for it? So you've got people buying programmatic on their own, and now they're trying to in-house media. Then you've got the consultants. So what's the role of the network agency, media agency?
I think the very simple answer I would give you is you can't in-house objectivity.
Right.
So that's a very short.
So why are
circumspect.
you required and not the consultant?
Look, I think there is room for everyone in
Right.
the changing system that we operate within. Someone said to me 50 years ago, or probably more, 75 years ago, it took 2 people to put an aeroplane up in the sky. It now takes a team of people, hundreds of people, to put an aeroplane up in the sky. And I think the same is true of media. We have the complexity of tech, data, insights, creativity, content, assets, making sure things are feed ready. By that I mean platform agnostic, making sure that we have a common narrative across multiple ways of thinking, making sure that we are optimizing to search, to social, to e-commerce. And I think making sure that we have the very best talent, the very best benchmarks. I mean, scale used to be a conversation around a portfolio that we could take to a media vendor to guarantee the best prices. Of course, that's absolutely critical, but in the world that moves to more biddable communications, what does that scale bring you? It brings you benchmarks to ensure that you understand the most efficient and effective way to invest our clients' dollars or rupees here to ensure that we drive a best outcome, to drive to sales, to performance criteria. So I think media has, if I think about our business here in India, as Wavemaker, we're 12% of the market. As Group M, we're 40% of the market. So that brings...
The organized market.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that brings huge benchmarks, huge knowledge that we can impact to grow our clients' business. So I think that's just some of the reason why media agencies are a vital component part of a team. But right. I do a team.
So as on the creative side, we've had this endless debate on who becomes a brand custodian. Ever since we started having, the silos, if you will, which is the creative agency. Then we had the creative and media. Then it became creative, media, digital, social, comms, PR, and so on. It just started adding up. And then the endless battle of who takes the rap or who takes the responsibility. Now, within the media space, you could have you do have, say, a media agency playing part of the role, a consultant playing another part, and then some part which is in-house, maybe some programmatic perhaps. So, where does the dashboard lie, and who takes charge of the dashboard?
Well, funnily enough, I think that's one of the reasons why media agencies still prevail, because we have the broadest overview of a client's communication plan. If, however, a client looks at breaking out individual component parts, then I think it's beholden on the KPIs that the client sets those individual businesses to ensure that they're all working in one harmonised way for the betterment of that individual client. We would obviously lead the remit that we're given, but I don't think you necessarily need to have one overarching leader. And if I think about WPP, where all of those capabilities can be delivered, then we have team leaders, and we've organised our business at a WPP level from a country perspective, a client perspective, and a company perspective.
Right.
So I would see Wavemaker as an entry point to many, many skills within our organisation, but we have to have the confidence where if we don't have that capability, we can look beyond into our own organisation and bring that. Clients should see us as the doorway into a broader capability.
Right. The in-housing argument is sort of started in India. It's not still a fire, but the conversations are happening. Do you think it's viable for brands below a certain size to do in-housing at all? Or is it a waste of their time? I mean, what would you advise them? I'm not talking about the biggest clients in the country. Let's say
Well, obviously I'd advise them not to do it and to come to Wavemaker.
But make a case for it. If you're talking dollars, where does it make sense?
I don't know if it's about size.
Right.
I think it could be about category. I think if you have a very data-rich, performance-heavy business, it might make more sense than if you were a CPG advertiser, where I think it would make less sense. I think the challenge with in-housing is several-fold. One is talent, the ability...
So just expand on talent.
So the ability to keep and retain people within a client doing media. People join media agencies or the advertising industry or the marketing industry because they want to join marketing, advertising and media. They don't join that sphere of agency life because they want to join a client. So I think the best talent goes to a media agency. The people who want to be in media go to work in a media agency. You can pull people out, but the problem is you then lack stimulation, you lack inspiration. Where do you get that from? Within your in-house peer group, because the people just aren't there. I don't know about you, but I've learned a huge amount from the people I've worked with. I still do. So I think that's a major challenge. I think the cost of tech and data is a huge challenge. You can buy off-the-shelf solutions, but you've got to remember WPP and our industry peers are developing and building and creating technology solutions for in our instance, 30% of the world's advertisers, or right. In the case of India here, 40%. So we have economies of scale that you simply can't get if you're doing an in-house solution. So I think a combination of talent and the ability to invest in tech and in the very best data is one of the reasons why I would certainly look to a media agency versus in-housing first off.
Toby, you've worked on 4 continents. And
I have. Can you name them?
I think all except South America, all of them.
Yeah.
So,
no one remembers that Australia is a continent. But there you go.
No, we've got a lot of, at least as the show, we've got friends in Australia.
There you go then.
Yeah. So anyway, so you worked on 4 continents and you have clients across all these. So what are the common threads you see in the current debate on the outsourcing, insourcing of media? When you meet CEOs, is there anything common you see? When you come to India, is the conversation strikingly different from the conversation you might have, say, in France or in Italy or
Well, I think the conversation can sometimes be misconstrued. There tends to be a lot of conversation around data,
right.
and we want to keep and look and control our own data, and every client absolutely should. Okay, so that's the first and most important point I would say to any client here in India or any client globally is you should absolutely keep and maintain and control your own data. So that's a popular misconception that leads to, well, therefore I think I need to in-house. So right. No, you don't. You keep control of your data and we should access that data to build audiences.
Those parts of the data that are required by you.
Absolutely, right. to build audiences or look-alike audiences that can help drive your business and your ROI. I think more generally what clients are talking about is, I've got a brand and I need to drive sales, and how do I drive sales? How do I drive performance when I've got such pressure from retailers, be they bricks and mortar retailers, be they digital retailers, e-commerce, whether it's Flipkart or Amazon, and how therefore do I look to build a D2C, a direct-to-consumer conversation? And again, if you don't have those skills within your organisation, then how do you build those skills? Well, you lean on your media agency to help you do that. And we've got 200 people based on the West Coast of America working solely on Amazon, working out how to best optimise to drive sales through the Amazon platform, which we then share and reapply across the world. And I think, again, that's another reason for media networks. We have what I would call boots on the ground. So we're in every country, multiple offices, certainly true of India, certainly true of Australia as well, where we are able to execute and where we're able to go to market. And again, that's something that isn't always necessarily possible when you look at individual clients. And that ability to share and reapply those learnings in those markets for the benefit of the clients is a real tangible plus side of a media network.
Other common questions you hear from CEOs or other common conversations that you have with CEOs that are common across? And then I'll come to what is different in the conversations you have in India.
Sure. So I think, and I'm not sure they are that different actually,
right,
having met with Mondelez and L'Oreal today. The biggest single question is, how do I balance brand and performance? That's the single biggest question that we're hearing at the moment. Too much brand, we dilute our performance.
We saw that Adidas perhaps spoke about it a few days ago.
Yeah, and I was quite close to that. And the challenge with Adidas was, obviously a tremendous brand, but they were chasing what I would argue were cheap sales.
Right.
So not targeted, not sustainable, and certainly not maximising the ability to communicate specific messages to specific audiences. I mean, they've completely reorganised their team. They've brought in some amazing talent.
Right, so let's get back to the Mondelez.
Balancing
performance and brand.
Balancing performance and brand, and making sure that one doesn't dilute the other, and vice versa. So if you think about, L'Oreal and Mondelez, amazing brands, different price points, and how you make one in terms of driving performance on direct to consumer viable, in terms of low entry costs of product. So they're challenges that we're facing the world over, and particularly, that was a conversation that we're having today, and they're doing some really smart work around adding value. So it's the age-old conversation around how do I add consumer value to the product that's being purchased to make sure that it's purchased and it's bought digitally, bought through their channels that will drive margin versus retailers where they obviously lose margin and have to give margin away.
Right. The common thread to all media agency challenges that I find is that while all of you at the media agency business have reinvented yourselves, reskilled yourselves, retrained yourselves, reinvented, is there equal training and reskilling happening at the client end to keep up with all the changes that media has seen in the last few years?
I think the clients that are most progressive, absolutely, yes. I think you've seen the rise of the chief media officer as a global phenomena. I think you've seen the progressive clients I'm seeing where there's a media procurement specialism, rather than a procurement capability that's being delivered through media. So absolutely, I think the progressive clients, they are evolving. They're looking at different models. Maybe through a digital perspective, they're not looking at executing across 30 different markets, but they're looking at executing through one digital hub. And that again takes a change at their end to ensure that they manage their local markets, but through to one central point of execution. Right. So talent and models, I think, we're seeing change.
Now, for at least the last 2 decades, we've seen trading being a very big sort of differentiator. If you were part of WPP or if you were part of a large competitor, has trading become hygiene that people don't have conversations about rates and this move on to the rest of the skills, or is trading still important?
I think it's still very important.
Right.
I think as we move to next year, and everyone I speak to says there'll be a slowdown, right. Maybe a slowdown in India, maybe recessions in other markets and globally. I think how efficient you are and the scale you bring to the market to secure the very best rates is absolutely critical. It's as critical today as it ever was. I think it's as well as.
Sure.
So it's, I need good pricing, I need great strategy, I need great performance. I just don't think it's binary anymore. It's not one or the other, it's one and the other. We need everything, and that's what we see. You can't be good at one thing, you have to deliver across pricing, strategy, performance, as I say, data, tech, right. The full remit. And as I said earlier, the benefit of scale is the benchmarks that we provide our clients to better communicate with their consumers.
An argument I've seen debated in the UK and the US is that the creative agency and the media business, they're so de-linked and they need to work together, almost like they were housed together 25 years ago, especially when it comes to programmatic, and you need to understand, what are the messages. You've got the data, who you're talking to, where they live, what their age is, what their gender is, everything. But whether the creative is appropriate, inappropriate, and so on. So what are the challenges in that area where you're almost placing creatives without looking at them? Your businesses, I'm not talking about you.
Oh, well, I wouldn't say we ever place creative without looking at it. I think there's two things. I think if you look at us as an organisation, we're building many more campuses, and what I mean by campuses, where all our WPP businesses are placed on one site.
Right.
So
that's for the largest clients, I'm sure.
No. As WPP.
Right.
So I don't know whether we've got one here. We've got one here, one in Shanghai, one in London, one in New York, one coming in Paris, one in the Netherlands, one in Milan, one in Madrid. So
and one in Kuala Lumpur, which you didn't mention.
Yes, for obvious reasons.
For obvious reasons, okay.
I found out about that. We'll have that story off camera.
Yeah.
But all those sites and locations and having us all in one place ensures that we can work more collaboratively. I mean, I'm a great believer in behaviour over geography, but certainly geography helps. I think the creative agencies and the media agencies' role, we come at it from a media optimisation perspective. So how can we make any piece of content, any creative asset, work disproportionately harder in the channel it's placed? Whereas I think the creative agencies come at it from a creative perspective, and how can we make it more creative for the consumer and drive to a sale. So coming at it from two different sides, but ultimately with one common objective, which is to drive sales. So when I see different platforms that increasingly we're placing content, we need to make sure that it's optimized for that platform, whether that's the right shape, whether that's noise on, sound off, whatever the nuance of that platform may be. So I think that's where we add value, and that's where we really start to partner much more closely with our creative brothers and sisters.
Fantastic. So now you come to India not too long after you taken charge as the global CEO. So explain to me why you're here so early. I mean, you've got other markets to go to.
Yeah,
so
6 weeks.
Yeah, why are you here?
6 weeks.
Yeah.
Short answer is I think there are export and import markets.
Right.
And import markets are markets where you take stuff, export markets are markets where you export. And what I'm interested in is looking at where we have export markets, and India is certainly one of them. We're the second largest media agency as Wavemaker in India. We have a market share of in excess of 12%. And if you compare that, we're a top 5 global media agency, and we're number 2 in Asia Pacific, and we have a 5% share globally. So, we're over twice the size of our global share here in India. The amount of work that's going on around data and analytics, I would argue, is second to none. I got a brief snapshot when I met with Kartik, our CEO, and his team in Bangkok when we had a regional meeting late September. So I've come here to have a look at some of that work. And again, to meet the team, to learn what we're doing here, what we're doing well, and to share and reapply that across the broader network, given the strength of the business.
This is an unusual market in media terms because it's still a TV-first market, with print still a fairly solid chunk.
20%, is that right? About 20% of the market?
Well, you should tell me, I should tell you, is that right? So you've got a large chunk of print and you've got digital growing, but still not dominant. So how do you view this when you look at the data and you say, wow, or what do you do?
So print's about 20%, digital's about 20%, and TV's about 50%. I see a huge opportunity.
Right. Why is it not?
I see a huge opportunity. Well, because we spoke earlier about that brand and performance, and if you think about the ability of television as still a dominant force in India to be that brand driving channel, but equally with the rise of Facebook, Flipkart, Google, your digital platforms to really start to be able to serve programmatically and drive ROI and understand different audiences with different creative at different times, then I think you've got a wonderful fusion of the two together. And as long as you don't misuse the performance piece and just push everything to everyone, but you're targeted, then I think there's a real opportunity to drive a return on our clients' investment here.
Fantastic. So tell me, when you come back for the next trip, what are the changes you would have liked to have seen in this country, in the Indian market?
For our business, I'd like us to...
You personally, yeah.
For me personally, for Wavemaker, I've got a very simple mantra that I'm sharing with the team, which is keep growing. I want us to keep our clients that we've currently got. I want to help them grow more. I want to grow our people and develop opportunities for them. And equally, I want to win more clients. We're number 2, which is great. And I said to Kartik and the team...
Let's try harder.
Yeah. Let's try harder. Yeah. Go up just 1 ranking place.
That's it.
That's
just
it.
one.
It's easy. So next time I come back, we can be number 1.
Cheers. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you.
Yeah. See you
really good to meet you. Thank you.
And that was the conversation. Anant, what do you think marketers need to keep in mind when working with agencies?
I mean, the idea of this conversation was to help the marketer navigate a complex world.
Yeah.
So I think they should, listen to what Toby has to say and look at what applies to them in their particular situation. Yeah. Because there's no one-size-fits-all solution. Like when I tried to provoke him by saying smaller companies, he said it's nothing to do with size, it's to do with the category that you might be in.
Yeah.
So I think they should look at their category and see what it is that they need and don't need, and then build a model that works for them.
All right. With that, it's a wrap on this episode of Melt. You can watch all our content on our social media platforms. Our handle is Ready to Melt. We are there on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And I'll see you next week, same time, same place. Goodbye.